A very good morning to you. Welcome to Motivation Monday, where we bring you challenging conversations and inspiring stories. Yes, this is what we aim to do here at Motivation Monday, so that as you start your week, you feel that indeed you have been inspired, you have been motivated. And today, in fact, the conversation that we are going to have is one that ought to motivate you to take life by the horns, indeed, as that phrase goes. Today, we are talking about coping with life's challenges. Yes, you heard that right. Coping with life's challenges. And you and I will admit that the times that we are living in are difficult, challenging times. Whether you're looking at the economic front, whether you're looking at the relational front, there are just many challenges that are coming our way. And the question that then begs is, how can we cope? Because it seems that the challenges are here. So how then do we cope? That is the conversation that we will be having today. And so we would love to hear from you. What are some of the challenges that you have had to endure in life? In fact, what are the challenges that you are facing right now? 20316 is our SMS line. 0786 316 316 is our WhatsApp line. But also, do let us know, how are you coping with the life's challenges that you are going through? To help us with this conversation is Dr. Jane Ngatia. She is currently the Director of Training and Counseling Services at East Africa Institute of Professional Counseling and is the immediate former National Chair of Kenya University's Professional Counselors Association. She has a master's in counseling psychology and has practiced this for over 18 years, both in practice and in teaching. And so we have just the right person to have the conversation that we are having today. Welcome, Dr. Jane Ngatia.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
I'm grateful. I love family media.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to be here, especially to talk about life challenges.
Yes.
Yes, I love my job.
Wow.
And I'm really passionate.
Yeah.
And we can carry on with this together.
All right.
It's a beautiful conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Maybe by way of introduction, it would help if you give us some sort of self-introduction even as we get into this conversation.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Jane Ngatia, as you have rightly put it. I am a counseling psychologist by profession. I love helping people. I am a mother too,
yeah.
And so I have my own challenges as we talk about them.
Yes.
But having known how to overcome them or to navigate is the most important thing.
Yeah.
So I have been doing this for many years, and I love working with people, in particular where there are challenges, so we find a way out together.
Yeah.
No one should be caught in a cage or locked up in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Now, I guess by just way of starting off this conversation, it will be important to sort of lay a framework of this. What are some of the challenges? You know, sometimes when we think of life's challenges, our understanding may be limited because we may just think about, for instance, for me, the economic situation we are in as a country is a huge challenge for me, but there are many other challenges that come our way. What are some of those challenges that we have to endure?
Wow, very good question there. I like that. Life is full of challenges to begin with.
Yes.
But that does not mean that we should never prevail. We have the capacity.
Yeah.
Let me point out, starting with family challenges. I think many of us have challenges from home, whether it is our own family, nuclear family, or family of origin. There are always issues that come up because we live as a group, so to speak.
Yeah.
And in a group, people have dynamics. There are always different opinions. And also bringing up a family, for those who have their own, cannot be easy. Think of rebellious children, you know, children who do not want to listen, young ones who probably fall ill from time to time. That is a challenge within the family circles. But some of these challenges probably are more expected than not.
Yeah.
Think of financial challenges. Those can be huge. And in our country, Kenya, we know that each one of us is encountering something. Either business is not doing too well, you know, the circulation is a bit slow, or finances. And many of us who are probably employed, salaries are not coming on time because our organization does not have the salary on time. You know, that kind of tipper effect is affecting each one of us. And there are those who are out there, as we call it, jua kali.
Yes.
And, you know, goods are not selling too fast. For me, in the service, you know, business,
yes.
Maybe I'm not getting too many clients.
That's true.
Because everyone have to scale down.
Yeah.
Between food, between basic needs as we have them.
Yeah.
And so when there are financial challenges, the stress levels also go up. Unfortunately, it looks like a vicious cycle, that there's a challenge, one needs help, they need to pay for the service, they cannot afford to pay for the service. They need to see a medical personnel because, you know, stress, depression, they have a way of impacting on the overall health of a person.
Yeah.
And then they can't afford, do I have my food or do I go to see a medical personnel?
Yeah.
So which that in itself begins to build up. And eventually, the person may begin to feel overcome.
Yeah.
And that is not a good space to be in. However, we can overcome those challenges as well.
Yeah.
The good news at the end of the day, Pastor, is that we can be able to overcome.
Yeah.
We need the necessary resilience, even as we move forward to look at how do we overcome them?
Yeah.
How do we navigate? How do we negotiate? Some things require negotiation, even with the challenge itself.
That's true.
But we can overcome. We should not forget about relationships. Relationships, you know, tend not to do too well when there are many other challenges, particularly socio-economic challenges. So people feel this relationship is not doing, everyone feels so weak to uphold, or rather to hold on their side. And so relationships break up, also become an issue. Don't be surprised, dear listener and viewer, if your relationship begin to feel like it's drifting. That dear relationship that you have may be leading to marriage, probably just a social relationship, and you begin to wonder, do I really need these neighbors around me? I mean, we put everything on everything when there is a challenge. So that is also a challenge that we cannot overlook or even assume. But even at personal level, there's a feeling of defeat. Everyone feel, or rather, majority of the people will begin to feel defeated. You know, we like being in charge. Naturally, human beings, we want to be on top of things. But when something is not working, call it financial, call it relationship, and you realize when one challenge happens, it seems to attract
other challenges.
Yes, on the lineup. And then the queue is so long. and we begin to feel like we are defeated. We cannot overcome all this. There is X, Y, Z to negotiate. By the time I do with X, Y is already showing up an ugly head. And then by the time I'm at Y, Z is, you know, like you can't manage me. So every time things look worse when one thing is not managed. And so we are also saying we need to be able to overcome the challenges, whatever it is. By the way, there isn't life without a challenge.
There's no life without a challenge.
Even if economically we are stable, like in our country now, and of course worldwide, there will always be something else. Up the sleeves, there is always a challenge. I don't think human beings are supposed to live without something that is disturbing. There has to be something that is putting you on edge, you and I on edge. There has to be something that is keeping me busy because we have to be thinking all the time. And part of the thinking is geared towards managing a challenge that we are facing at the moment. But do you also realize, Pastor, whenever we solve one problem, another one shows up.
That's true.
A solution in itself creates a problem. But what we need to look at is, as we solve a problem, a challenge, what do we create? What we create definitely should be of lesser magnitude and intensity than the problem we are trying to overcome.
So you're saying it's possible to try and solve a problem, and through that solution, you actually arrive at a greater problem than the one you previously had.
if we have not calculated the solution we are looking for,
yes,
the navigation factors, if we do not calculate that too well, we are likely to create another mountain.
Okay.
On top of a mountain that is already existing.
Yeah.
That can be very frustrating. Definitely, even the thought of it, the imagination, can be very, very stressful. So we always have to, in an attempt to solve a problem, to resolve, to negotiate a challenge, to overcome a challenge, we must always be able to sit back. We need a sober mind.
Yeah.
And that sobriety is what helps us to be able to see the factors that are going to interact. If I want, for instance, maybe you can take an example of a rebellious child within a family. We need, first of all, to take that child as an individual. Yeah. Probably sometimes the mistake we make is to assume that all the children are troublesome within the family. And sometimes we make a mistake of saying, why can't you be like so-and-so? We are not solving a problem because by comparing, we are also making this child to get worse. Yeah. So we need first to take that child as an individual. We need to be able to negotiate, even finding out what is going on. Yeah. Why do we have trouble here? And always I like saying that a family is like a system. Yeah. If we can isolate that challenge by itself, it's a system, it's a unit. And so when one member is not doing their thing, the system gets upset. Yeah. The equilibrium is upset, definitely. So we need, first of all, to find out what's happening with this unit. Yeah. And we isolate that unit with an attempt to find out what is going on. Why would the child make everyone so unhappy? Yeah. Why is this child not complying with the family norms? Because that is what is giving us the challenge here. And once we are able to look at that, then we deal with that particular issue of that child. Yeah. So we narrow down so that by solving that problem, by helping this child to be in praise and to be able to support and to hold hands together without creating a gap, then we have not created any bigger problem than we are trying to solve. That's true. So it is always good to look at each challenge by itself without trying to mix up. The minute we put too many problems together, so many challenges together, then we run the risk of creating a bigger problem than what we are trying to negotiate or to solve. And it can be very frustrating when we are trying to resolve a challenge and then we appear like we are spinning wheels. Yeah. It can be very, very frustrating.
It's like this never-ending cycle.
Oh, yes. And so by the time people realize, oh, your car is stuck. Yeah. I mean, the driver isn't doing their thing. They are not able to get out of this. They need to come and give you a push. Sometimes the push doesn't come by. I mean, everyone is dealing with their own things. And so it is good at individual level that we empower ourselves. But then I've remembered something else, Pastor. Yes. Self-awareness. Okay. Being able to recognize that Jane Gatia here has this capacity, has this potential. Yeah. Do I have the resources required to negotiate? Do I have the capacity? Sometimes to negotiate a challenge, we need the technical know-how. Yeah. We probably miss information that we require to be able to go about solving that problem. Many economic problems, financial issues, sometimes we may require someone else to give some feedback, to put in some information that will help us to make a decision that is geared towards getting us out of that stuckness, especially if it is financial. We don't necessarily need someone to give us money, but we need ideas to be able to tell that if I tried this way, I'm likely to get out of the wilderness. Faster than just sitting there and lamenting. Maybe the worst we can do is to lament over a challenge. We need not to.
Yeah.
And complaining, sitting on the spot.
And complaining.
I mean, not moving, not making any move, and kind of like we are not, oh yes, syndrome, you know, I'm defeated, I am desperate, who will come to help me?
Yeah.
Someone will come by. If you make a cry and your foot is forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that they are able to hold your hand, and then you can lift the other leg, and then you move forward.
Yeah.
As opposed to I'm sitting and I'm asking, who can help me? Surely, not too many people will come by.
That's true.
It's not easy.
And it's interesting because that then speaks into an area that I will want to touch later on, unhealthy coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
But there's an area of challenge, and I don't know if you've experienced it yourself or you've had clients that have experienced it, where one has to, say, deal with an ailing family member. Yeah. And perhaps it's a prolonged illness or it's a terminal illness. Just speak to that. I find that, to be honest, one of the most difficult challenges one has to deal with. Yeah.
Wow, that's a very important observation you have made. Yes, within the family setting, having a member of the family who is, let's say, ailing, as you have put it, rightfully.
Yeah.
That can be a very big, discouraging moment.
Yeah.
And as we have already put it, a family is like a unit that needs to operate with the required momentum and in the right direction. So when one unit, whether it is within the nuclear family or within the extended family, that particular member cannot hold in place, then it becomes a very big challenge, which can be very discouraging. Humanly speaking, we don't like suffering.
That's true.
And when we observe a person who is suffering, you know, illness, especially when it's prolonged, sometimes life-threatening, can create a sense of despair. Yeah. It can create a sense of wishing if things changed. And because human run from suffering, we evade, we like putting out, if we could, would eliminate any form of suffering
That's true.
on the planet. Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't have that ability. But our God has the ability, of course, he has all the ability. He is the creator of all human. And so we believe that he holds us in place. But humanly speaking, again, we need to do something. We need to encourage ourselves. There is something that is always very important, and psychologists encourage that to happen. The issue of spirituality. Okay. And I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about a strong connection with that creator that we believe holds the universe in place. Yes. Now, that spirituality, there's something it does to the psychological realm. It helps one to develop a sense of strong hope so that we don't give up. Because the worst that can happen is to give up and leave everything to chance. It is not a good way of looking at a challenge. So we need first to encourage ourselves as a caregiver. We need also to encourage the person. If they look at us and they are the ones ailing and we are their hope. And then we look hopeless. Then they give in and they give up very quickly. That's true. So we have to be strong in the sense that we know that there's a power beyond. Yes. If the power wishes that this person gets well, and we are doing our thing, we've done the medical visits and all that, then we hold on. And that faith, that spirituality is what keeps every human being. Because there's that vacuum that when everything else seems to fall apart, there must be a power that does not give in, that does not give up on us. That does not face, someone that doesn't face the same challenges that we are facing. Definitely. Wow, I like that. So we can hold in place and we can support that person until a time comes when probably our life has to be given up. Back to the Creator. All right. But in the meantime, we have to believe and we have to hold on and we have to do what, humanly speaking, is possible for us to do.
Welcome back. This is Motivation Monday, where we bring you challenging conversations and inspiring stories. My name is Elijah Mukaya, and our guest for today is Dr. Jane Ngatia, a counseling psychologist who has been at it for over 18 years, both in practice and in teaching. And today's conversation specifically is coping with life's challenges. Yes, like I asked at the beginning, in what ways are you coping with the challenges that life is throwing your way? What are some of the challenges that you're facing currently? We hope that this conversation will be of benefit to you. 20316 is our SMS line. 0786 316 316 is our WhatsApp line. And so let's get back to this conversation. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yes.
This is interesting.
Yeah.
I think people are benefiting out there, the viewer, the listener. Keep it up. Don't change that dial, though.
Yes.
Because we are not yet done.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Now, you helped us appreciate sort of the various challenges that we would go through in life. I like one of the things that you said. To be human is to face challenges. That so long as we are human and so long as we are alive, then we will face challenges, one challenge or the other. Now, from your experience, what are some ways in which we try to cope with these challenges that are not helpful at all, that are not healthy? What are some unhealthy coping mechanisms that we employ in dealing with our challenges?
Wow, that's a very important question you have asked. If you didn't ask that one, I think the viewer and listener would have been asking it in the background. You have done good to bring it up. Yes, they are very unhealthy coping mechanisms with the challenges.
Yeah.
First of all, we have to know that we shall face challenges at some point in our lives, sometimes coming in a chain. But the worst that can happen when we are trying to navigate through a challenge is to assume that the challenge will go by itself. As in it will disappear.
So is this like the proverbial ostrich that buries its head in the sand? And it says, because I can't see danger, and now danger no longer is here.
But danger is still hovering.
Yes.
Actually, it could get worse. So when the head is lifted, you find it's actually doubled because nothing was done to it. And naturally, there is no problem that solves itself. A problem has to be solved. It has to be, faced head on, and then we must develop a good way of starting it off. So refusing to acknowledge, kind of that assumption that there is no problem anyway, it will go. It won't go. It will get worse, as we have said. Probably that is very important that we emphasize. And it is going to actually eat you up. So we first acknowledge that there is a problem. Once we are aware and we acknowledge and say, yes, I'm facing a problem, but I can overcome it. This is my own challenge. Actually, we should take it as a personal challenge. And then we can be able to mobilize ourselves to move on. The second level of tackling in a good way is to actually look at the alternatives that I have. Remember, if we do nothing, we are not also looking for the alternatives. And that becomes a very bad way. So we need to look at how many options do I have? What are the alternatives at my disposal that I can be able to apply to get along and to get over this mountain? A challenge always appears like a mountain, and we are not mountain climbers, so we don't have the gears, but somehow we can be able to mobilize what we have, and we use what we have to be able to overcome. It's always a good thing not to ignore the advice of others or the guidance of other people. Many people have faced challenges like you are, and probably they overcame. And if you know someone, or if you can approach someone you trust, then it is important to find out, by the way, I have this challenge. How do I go about it? But keeping it to yourself is a negative way of coping with that challenge. Just assuming I don't want anyone to know. Yes, I know I have it, but no one should know that I have a challenge.
Protecting your image.
Yes, protecting the image and kind of wearing a mask. We even call it a facade. The minute I wear a facade, I'm not able to face it because I'm assuming. And so I should be able to find someone whom I can trust. Like I can trust pastor here, and I can share and say, whoa, by the way, this is what I'm facing. As much as I would request, pray with me or pray for me, what am I doing about it? Because I should also be able to make a step. So let me let someone know. As someone said, a problem shared and it's halfway solved. Yes, it's a problem, solved maybe 50%.
That's true.
And that already keeps me going. I have feet to walk because I know someone else is sharing this problem. Or they shared with me how they went about it, and so I can try it. There is hope. Yes? So another bad way of maybe coping with a challenge is just trying to displace. There's something we call displacement. So I pick that problem, I put it on pastor here, and I say, oh, I think you are the cause of this.
So I've displaced it from myself to somebody else.
Yes, and I assume a blame game. So it's like you are the cause of all this. Instead of facing what I have, because it has come to me head on. And it has come calling on Jane Gatia here. I should be able to own it. And move with it so that I'm able to share with someone else. But displacement is always a kind of defense mechanism. I don't want to say that I have it. Yes, you thought that I have a problem, but that is not my problem. It is actually pastor's problem. And so what I've done is to get into denial. And that kind of denial that there's a problem is always very, very weighing down. The weight is almost unbearable. So that is also another way. And maybe also doing it the wrong way. Just trying to look for a solution where it is not. It can't be found. So we must also, and that's why I emphasize on being sober. Having a sober mind. Sit and sleep over it. Don't ever face a challenge. I mean, trying to overcome a challenge or solve a challenge when I am not stable. I need to be sure that, yes, let me sit, have a conversation with myself, talk to myself, talk to the inner Jane. There's always that inner person, the inner voice, and mobilize it. This is our problem now. And have a conversation like we are two of us. This is our problem. How do we go about it? And then there is always an idea that will come. So that helps us, as opposed to, I don't have a problem. We don't have a problem. And so I will do nothing about it. So that can be very, very discouraging. But moving in the right direction, moving to get the right solution. Every challenge somehow has a solution somewhere. It's only that we may not have access immediately. We don't have the key, but the key is not lost. It is somewhere. We need to pick it up. We need to find a way of finding it, and then we open and pull out the solution. It may not be as easy as I'm putting it, but in other words, I'm saying take your time. If it's not an emergency, think through. And sometimes even looking back, how did this problem come to be? Where did it all start? That helps us to gain momentum, to know that it started here. This is one thing we need to avoid. That is one other string that we need to pull out. That is also very, very important. Because when there is a challenge, it's like a knot has been, tied. There's a string that is tied and it's so tight. We need to find the edge.
So that we can, pull out the knot.
Oh, yes. We begin to pull out slowly by slowly. Because if we pull once, it could break, and then we create another problem. Remember what we said? You can create a problem in the place of us getting a solution. So we pull it out. And slowly by slowly, and fortunately, once we get the edge or the start of this string that is so tightly tied, we probably solve so many problems at the same time. Because problems sometimes, challenges come in a chain and they attract each other. It seems like there's a magnet that when there's one problem, have you ever noticed in life, there's a problem somewhere, and then another one comes in. There's a financial. Then there is these children who are not even listening to the parents. And And it's like we begin to wonder, hey, just like the devil would have it, and we begin to curse and all that. But problems have a way of attracting each other.
Yeah.
They are looking for a place to go.
And when they find their fellow problem,
oh yes,
they attach themselves there.
They find a home and they build a mansion.
Yeah.
You know, we should not allow that mansion to come up. We should disrupt it as quickly as we can. Yes. Yeah. And then we have to be careful that we don't shake the foundation itself in a way that everything gets into confusion.
Yes.
You know, we need to pull one stone after another, one after another, until we are able to see the bottommost, and we are able now to know, wow, this is where the problem is, and it will be solved. So wearing masks, putting up defense mechanisms will not solve the problem. But the defense mechanism, once you realize that once in a while, when the challenge is so big, we go into a denial. I could tell you, Pastor, one time I had a very big challenge of failing a very big exam. And I told myself, I didn't fail that exam. The truth is I had failed. And I wasn't going to get an entry to the university as I desired. And I told myself, oh, I didn't fail. But that was only temporary. Just for a few hours. I'm talking about how defense mechanisms work. But then that defense mechanism will wear out because it's only a temporary way of kind of like to support me to be able to survive it. I mean, to face the reality and to bounce back. And the minute I said, well, okay, what next? I can still book this exam, do it again, and pass. And for sure I did. I passed. And I took my time to think about it. And that's why I'm here.
That's true.
That was a big challenge. So we always face challenges, but we must be able to get the relevant methods of going about it. But then there is also another bad way of solving or facing a challenge. Running away altogether. Like, oh, I can't live in this place, and you walk out and you leave.
I've had people who've left families because of challenges.
By the way, that is how families are abandoned, even by the head of the family. And sad enough, they go and they leave. And they pack their one clothes and leave everything else behind. You know, life has become so difficult. They can't provide. But running away, getting off, and just going to look for a different place in itself does not solve a problem. If anything, we have seen a coward. And you know, that's now a bigger problem. Because coming back, just in case the family manages to pull through, and you get back, I don't know how you resettle. You know, it can be very difficult. And that's why we were saying, creating a problem on top of another problem. So it is always good, stay on, hold on, especially for heads of the families, men who are listening and watching this conversation. Hold on. All is not lost. I mean, the worst has not happened. And somehow, the worst doesn't happen. Even when we imagine that, oh my, this is the worst. Life has gone south. I mean, things are not working for me. That is a point of despair that we should not accept. So we don't run away. We don't take a kind of rescuing ourselves from this problem. We need to stay on and find a way out together, especially for families and relationships. Just deserting, abandoning. Children have been abandoned. That is the same. Challenges of I can't feed them. I cannot, pay their school fees. I cannot, I can't do anything. And that thing of can't, this is the time to get that sharp pair of scissors. Cut the T out. Then we are left with I can. The T must go. Every listener of this conversation and every viewer, you need to cut that T from now, moving forward. It is my faith that we have done that already. So the T must go, and then we can. I can't. And the minute I assure myself, and Pastor, there's something also very interesting that happens. When we tell ourselves, I can, Jane Gatia, you can. This can't be the highest mountain to climb. Yes, I may not have the right gears, but I can. That self-talk is very powerful, as opposed to I can't, because that opposite will actually dismantle everything. And then we become like a melting pot that at the end of it all, there is nothing to be picked from us. We have already given up, and the pieces are too far apart to be put together. We must not break the bridges. We have to stay on course, and the bridges must hold, because we must cross this river that looks like we shall drown. We shall not drown. We may not be swimmers. Remember what we said? Our spirituality will hold. If everything else goes apart,
God is able.
There is God. Is somewhere. We like saying in heaven, let it be, if that is the place. But there is God who knows everything. And for that matter, and that's why we say, my God, come for me. It's through. Too bad for me. Come through. Help me. Hold me. I don't know how, but I know I will make it. And for sure, we shall manage.
I like that. I like what you said about taking a pair of scissors and cutting the T out from can't, so that you remain with I can. Somebody has said there are two types of people in this world, those who say I can't and those who say I can, and unfortunately both of them are true. You know, because again, elsewhere as it is written, as a man thinketh in his heart. It's
all in the head. And by the way, Pastor, that is strongly supported by one psychologist called Albert Ellis. He actually, a very famous American psychologist whom, you know, did his work, did his research well. And even though he doesn't claim too much of a Christian, but what he says is powerful and agrees with the word of God, that whatever we do, whatever our fears are, it's all in our head. If we are able to change that way of thinking, and we engage some rationality, some rational thinking at the cognitive level, it will happen because our thoughts influence our feelings, and our feelings influence our behavior. So what we see, the way we react, is all in the head. So we need to do a kind of running upwards. Change, or rather upwards, downwards, if you like, whichever way, but change your way of thinking, and that automatically, without much effort, will change our way of feeling about it. If you are feeling anxious, we are told not to be anxious about anything. It's because that is at the feeling level, which has been monitored or kind of geared from the thought level, from the mind. So we need to change our mindset. But we also need to speak to that mindset, lest it comes back and give us the impossible.
That's true.
So we kind of have to change our mindset and think differently. And by the way, that is one way of even facing that challenge.
This is Motivation Monday, where we bring you challenging conversations and inspiring stories. Today we are talking about coping with life's challenges. My name is Elijah Mokaya, and our guest today is Dr. Jane Gatia, a counseling psychologist. And what a conversation we have had so far. Welcome back, Dr. Jane.
Thank you.
Now, there's something you mentioned, even as we get to now healthy coping mechanisms, this last part of our show, about displacement, you know, where we displace the problem. And part of how that plays out sometimes is also, you know, blaming where we have come from. So I've remembered a meme that I saw recently, that there is an age you get, you can no longer say you came from a humble background, because now you have become the background. So
interesting.
I think I agree, you know, with us not, you know, displacing, because then we don't deal with the problem. But now let's get to healthy coping mechanisms, you know, mechanisms that will actually help us to deal with the challenges that life throws our way.
Well, that's interesting too, and a very important observation you have made there, Pastor. Yes, let's speak on a challenge like relationship. We have had many people who have had a broken relationship, a relationship that probably would lead to marriage, or was intended to. And when one partner decides they are done with it and they don't want to move on with the friend they have or with the partner, their intended spouse, one of them, especially the one who is abandoned, you know, there's a feeling of there is this one who broke away and there is myself who was abandoned. I want to take that position because I'm not threatened. So I have been abandoned. And what comes into my mind is I'm not worth anything. I'm not lovable anymore. No one can love me. And that is probably a very bad way of thinking about it. But talking about a good way of coping with that kind of abandonment, actually it is even sounds like rejection. I've been rejected, so I'm a reject. And we give ourselves a verdict. That is the time to rise up and say, actually, I think I'm too good for that person. There is a way in which you can turn something inside out. Turn it around and say, I was too good. I'm worth many things. Remember the self-talk? We are talking to us. I'm talking to myself. I said I'm taking the position, so I talk to myself and I say I'm too good, even for this abandonment. Actually, I need to wake up, get off the dust from myself and move forward. There must be somebody who will find my worth. That one who has left, most likely, we were not going to make it together.
Did not appreciate my worth.
That one did not appreciate me, but I know I'm good enough. So that kind of self-assurance, so to call it, what it does is to boost our self-esteem. When I speak to myself and I say, yes, I'm good enough, suddenly self-esteem rises. Self-esteem is very elusive. And why many people go ahead and probably even intend to end their own lives. And some people have done that, unfortunately. That is the most unfortunate thing that can happen when one faces the challenge of a broken relationship. We need to move forward. And I can easily tell myself that person was not worth even my time. And I move forward. I should not sit there. Talk of a good way of getting out of a challenge. I should not sit there. I'm not running away, but I'm not sitting there. In my mind, I have moved on. But there is something that sounds difficult to do, but it is the right thing to do. If we are still able to reach that person and even tell them, thank you for the time that we had together. I appreciate that you gave me the time that you gave me. But I also appreciate the fact that I can move forward and I'll definitely find another, create another or build another relationship. I believe I can initiate because I initiated that one. So if one is able to do that, the blame game shifts.
That's true.
So we don't keep on blaming. They did this to me. You know, I've had situations where a person had or kind of abandoned in a relationship, and then they begin to follow the other person, asking them for that handkerchief they bought them, asking them for that money, they ate some dinner somewhere. And it's like, really?
Shouldn't be like that.
We can't be that cheap. I mean, we are worth, and we can give. And so we gave, and somebody appreciated us. So we don't have to follow up the person asking to return whatever we did to them, whatever we gave them. That is not a good way of dealing with a challenge of a broken relationship. And eventually, one thing that I would caution again, from the psychological perspective, when one goes through a broken relationship, there is a tendency to hold on to anyone who comes around. We want to fill a vacuum. That is not a good way of coping. Filling in that vacuum immediately does not help, because chances are high that we land on the wrong person.
Yes.
And the person who comes, we expect they will be as good as the other one. if I consider them to be good, or even better or best, you know. So if they don't meet the expectations, then I'll have another broken relationship sooner than later.
Double pain.
And that is a tragedy.
Yeah.
Yes, and a bad way of coping with the challenge, particularly in relationships. So the best way is give yourself time, get sober once again, gain momentum, find your bearings, you know, on the points of the compass, and move on, and move slowly. Because a broken relationship is not a do-die thing. And it is always good to remember that person was never your oxygen mask. If they were, then that is serious. But, and then there is something else. Even when we are in a relationship, we need to be optimistic. And we need also to think, what if? Particularly if we are not married. What if something comes in or came in? How would I cope with that? It is always good to give room, but we are not saying we initiate that process. We are only saying that it can be 50-50, you know, kind of platform. Because we are negotiating with another person that we make a deal. But if the deal doesn't do, then we look for another deal. There must be another platform where we can be able to negotiate. But generally, relationships have landed people in a lot of trouble, where somebody is never able to pick the pieces. They are never able to make or get into another healthy relationship. And whenever they get into a relationship, they have the fear. We even call it phobia. That, oh, these two might lead like, you know, to a broken road like the other one. I might end up the same. And fear is another thing, Pastor. You'd talk about it louder. Fear of failing. That's a terrible thing. Actually, when we fear so much, psychologists have established the very thing you fear, you'll find it ahead. Comes to pass. Right at your gate. It comes to be. Because we act in a way that we are fearing so much, and so we don't do anything to counteract. And so that thing happens to us. Because we did nothing. We were lamenting and we were so worried about it. And again, we need to realize that when we don't engage the right coping mechanisms with any challenge, name it, there is something that happens biologically. There are other things that come up, emotions of anger, emotions of hurt. Like hurt, we should never hold it for too long. Yes, we get hurt when we have a challenge. We feel like we are responsible, like we are not good enough. Those emotions have capacity, especially anger, because anger is so automatic. When we don't achieve, it sets in. It's always hovering around us. So it comes in and it's like more anger and more anger. And that's why now we act in ways that are not good in coping with. Because sometimes people even get into a physical fight. That's true. Sometimes they do things that otherwise were not necessary. They use a lot of energy trying to follow this other person, trying to call names, trying to shout. Why all that? I mean, it is uncalled for. So like anger is a very dangerous emotion of coping. Some people get angry and they think because they are angry, then they are forgiven for the broken relationship. And that is a very counter whatever productive way of coping. So anger will definitely trigger some other kind of feelings. And when anger, because everything is initiated from the brain, when we get angry, a message goes to the heart that tells the heart to pump faster. Pump faster because there's danger. But this danger has not been given a name. But the brain is able to communicate that there's danger. And so the heart will be put on high alert that you must pump and pump longer. And that's how sometimes even diseases that we shouldn't have, call them high blood pressure, eventually hypertension, you know, they shouldn't happen to us. But because we are hovering anger for too long, due to inability or the unwillingness to confront a challenge, then that now causes some health issues.
Even physical.
Even physical, we shall be worn out.
Yeah.
We shall definitely be looking worn out.
Wow.
Not energetic like you and I. I'm sure those who are viewing can see these people have fed well. We don't have anger.
Yeah.
We don't have to.
Yeah.
It will come, but you should not give it space.
Yeah.
So anger is one enemy that prevents us. First of all, it creates a barrier for us to be able to go to the other side and look for a viable solution.
Yeah.
And the other thing, in the meantime, other than hindering us, creating a barrier, it creates some difficulties in us of health issues.
Wow.
So solving a problem, confronting a challenge, face on, head on. It is very, very important.
Wow.
And now we are saying something has to be done. Whenever there's a challenge, do something, but in the right direction.
Yeah.
It has to be well calculated. Always remember to share a challenge with someone you trust. Of course, we don't want our challenges to be broadcasted, even on this family media. So we want to feel safe. We want to feel like we have a safety net. But that safety net should not hold us too long or too much that we are not able to see the light on the other side. Definitely there must be some light on the other side. It's not all dark. So we need to move. We need to make a move in our minds. Where physical move is required, we also need to do it. But always to remember that we must match the solution we are looking for with the kind of challenge that we are facing. So if we are facing a family problem, a family challenge, we don't go to look for a solution in a different way.
Financial way.
In a financial way.
If it is a family problem, then a family solution. A financial problem, a financial solution. A relational problem, a physical health, a challenge. Wow. Imagine our time is up.
Perfect.
Dr. Ngatia.
Wow, that sounds like too short.
This
what a conversation should have gone on and on.
This has
it's interesting. I'm sure the listener and the viewer
has benefited.
And that is God's way, that we share what we have.
That's true.
I'm glad that we have been able to have this.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. What a conversation this has been. And may the Lord just grant you the privilege of seeing fruit, that many would be helped on account of the conversation that we have had. Thank you so much.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
Wow, we have come to the end of our conversation today. We are talking about coping with life's challenges. We pray and hope that there are a few lessons that you have learned. And whatever challenge you're facing right now, that you have some sort of tools that you can begin so that you are actually able to overcome that specific challenge. Please move from unhealthy coping mechanisms to healthy coping mechanisms. Also, before we sign out, this is a good reminder that we are able to do this by virtue of partnership with men and women like yourself. And so kindly, if you will desire to be one of our partners by way of prayer and through financial giving, kindly send an SMS with the word partner to 20316 and somebody will get back to you. In the event you would like to give something right now, feel free to do that through paybill number 316316 and for account, kindly write your phone number. This is goodbye from us. Next week, we build up from this conversation. We'll be talking about triumphing over trauma. Yes, that's the conversation we'll be having next week. But until then, please, do cope well with the various challenges that life throws your way. See you later.